tried to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it. You have to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind.
This is the Mind is Mine podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, what it do? We're at episode 7. We have made it to 7. And honestly, just now picking it up, I think it's a great episode 7, a great timing for episode 7 because we have a very, very spiritual fellow in the house. 7 is a very sacred number, a very godly number. But we got my man, Erick. What's your last name, bro?
Quezada.
Erick Quezada, who is a pastor for Lutheranism.
Yes.
Not
a pastor yet, just a student at the seminary.
But hey, he's there. He already got it within him. I want you to introduce yourself, bro. What all you do with your life? How's your day today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Houston, it's a pleasure to be on this show. It's a pleasure to see your views over there. I know this is going to be a good podcast for you, and not for you, but for just the world in general, just to share stories. Of course. I think that's what I'm drawn to with podcasts. It's just we're sharing stories. And so my story is I'm from Corona, California, or East Vale, and I grew up with a family that raised me in Christianity. I was raised half German, half Mexican. So there's kind of two separate cultures that raised me. One very stoic, the German, and Mexican. It's very open and loving, and communication is just it's intimate, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my background culturally, but spiritually, I've always been a Christian my whole life, and it's been a weird journey because there's, as you know, many of you guys know that there's many denominations of Christianity. Yeah. And it's hard to know which one to choose, right? I think that's the spiritual journey that me and you talk about quite a bit. It's
finding that path, pretty much.
Exactly. It's finding the path. And ultimately what I came to, and what I would say came to me, is that Lutheranism, particularly, is the most faithful to Christianity because of the foundational belief of grace and justification. And we can get more into that a little bit more. But what is so revolutionary about this is that a lot of religions want you to do something, want you to show how much work you can put in, and then you receive the gifts. What Christianity at its core does, it says we don't need to do anything, but God does everything for us. And yes, the works are necessary. Yes, doing things are natural for a Christian.
Yeah.
But at its core, it's about what God has done for you and what that does to your identity, and eventually what that identity does and how you express that identity out in your everyday life. So I'm at the seminary right now. I went to Concordia Seminary in St. Louis. There's another one in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They're both really, really great, but I just went to this one because it was a little bit closer. I wanted to see St. Louis, and I like the city life a little bit better than kind of a rural area that it is in Indiana.
Yeah.
But it's been a real blessing. I think that it's been really hard to kind of adjust to the different culture. California, you're kind of fast, always fast.
For sure.
And it's a little bit here in St. Louis too. People are moving fast, but not as fast. So at the seminary, the teachers have been teaching me just so much. I came mostly for curiosity. I think that I needed to take this seriously. I needed to take my spiritual life seriously. I needed to see if this was it. And that's my call, of course. That's my call from God to take this as seriously as possible. And I wanted to see what they had to teach. I wanted to see to what extent do I need to pursue truth, and how will this journey end if I do pursue it with 100% of myself. And it's taken everything. It's taken my time, it's taken my money, it's taken my resources, and other people have come along the way, and I'm so blessed to receive their help. But I wanted to try. as much as I could. And that means giving your life up for your belief. Cool. Isn't that what the belief is for?
Exactly.
Right. And I know you're very interested in that too. I know you're a man that's pursuing truth. So tell me a little bit about yours.
Well, dang, that was a good little intro right there. I like that. But on my path, essentially, it wasn't Christianity. At first, it was Buddhism, because I needed stillness in my life. If anything, like you said, that fast-paced environment. If anything, my entire environment was just fast and just quickly moving, and I never got the time to really sit down with my thoughts and my emotions and really recognize who I am beyond those thoughts and those emotions, really recognize who I am beyond the actions that, I've been doing and committing upon the world. And I started to see that affect my reality in a very negative way because I wasn't taking the time to do the inner work. And if I don't take the time to do the inner work, then it's hard for me to realize who I am and my state of being, which reflects onto my actions, and my actions reflect onto what I have. So at the core of it, I wasn't being who I truly am. I wasn't uncovering and discovering the true potential of who I was, which automatically limited me to a certain perspective in which, I wasn't whole at all. If anything, I was divided from within myself. So within that, all my actions came with division, and all the things that I had came with division. I wasn't able to maintain the loving things in my life for long periods of time. A lot of relationships that I went through were very short term, didn't even get past a year and a half. I've never been in a relationship where I saw the light of 2 years. My relationship with myself, at the time, my grades were spiraling. My relationship with baseball at the time was spiraling. And then I started to get identified with pretty much the crowd rather than understanding my own individuality, which can lead to, being a sheep in a way. You start following groups and not truly understanding why you're following these groups. It's just, it made you feel comfortable. This is what you want to identify as. So that was kind of the crowd that I fell into. And I wasn't doing anything like super, super terrible, but definitely I'm not perfect. I was making dumb decisions, cheating in terms of relationships, cheating myself out of an actual career in baseball, cheating myself out of some level of education because I wasn't really paying attention to it, and cheating myself out of, at the time, financial stability because every paycheck that I would get, it would go towards something material. 9 times out of 10 shoes. But if anything, I was just too attached to the material around me and the environment around me, and identifying with the environment rather than having to look myself in the mirror and understand who I am outside of these attachments, outside of the very things I identify with, and have to bring back to the core of who I am. So Buddhism it really opened the door for me to come into stillness and introduce meditation into my life, and the importance of meditation, the importance of having a perspective beyond your thoughts, because I'm only bound by my thoughts and my emotions. Now I'm only getting part of the story rather than the entirety of the story of my reality. So it was just a quest to figure myself out. And when I figure myself out, I start to figure out things around me, because the core of life is within you. I realized that the divine is within you. Nothing is outside the divine. Divinity lies in every single thing, even though we're not the pinnacle of divinity, because that is formless, that is without a face, and there's no division and separation at all. What we're in is just, I guess you would say, a simulation, the test to come back home. So we're still splintered in a way, but we're not splintered from the whole. It's kind of a paradox.
Sure.
But yeah, if anything, I admire that you are putting everything down and pushing everything off for this journey. And if anything, that inspires me more to do what I do and to continue this podcast, to continue to create and use my creativity to be a vessel for my spiritual journey, for my journey in mysticism. So if anything, I appreciate you explaining that in your intro, because that, if anything, that was inspirational right off the bat. So I appreciate that, man.
Glory to God, man. Glory to God. And I think
Praise God.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And like you said, I was on autopilot as well, like this sheep mentality, like you were speaking about, where I feel like I just woke up at 18 years old, man. Like everything snapped. My grades were bad. Everything was going terrible. My friends were going to Berkeley or UCLA or some other sick school, and I could go to the community college because I didn't have the grades to cut it, right? And there was a moment where reality kind of set in, and I kind of just woke up. I mean, that's what the Matrix is all about too, right? Where a moment where reality comes into existence and he turns off autopilot.
A revelation, pretty much.
And you have to take the red or the blue pill, right? Are you going to dive deep into it? Or are you just going to live in this sheepish mentality where you just let life happen to you, right? And I think, almost summarizing you, I felt the same way. I felt that there was something more than just following the next trend, going to the next girl, following another career that I didn't really want to do, but I thought that was the best move for me.
Yeah.
For money or pleasure.
It's what other people want you to do as well.
Right. And that's the journey, trying to figure out and trying to wake up. Do you feel that it's been tough?
Oh, for sure. Because when you dedicate yourself to that path, the amount of sacrifice that comes with that is exponential. Like, there's a lot of sacrifice that you have to make, time-wise, material-wise, energy-wise, friend-wise, even family-wise. It's just like the certain activities that you get into, your language that you speak, the certain thoughts and emotions that you tolerate, at least tolerate in a way for it to continue on and to listen to and identify with. So yeah, if anything, it's reshaping the entire way that you look at yourself in your life and what all is going on in your life, which can be very difficult, because I come from, for the majority of my life, I lived in a very comfortable setting. You know, I had a dad that was there for me even through, divorce and my mom not being around. And then my stepmom came into the picture, and she has worked her ass off and has definitely, filled the role as she should, and beyond a level that we could ever dream. And I'm very thankful for both of them. So they were able to give me a very comfortable life. Never lived in the hood, never got into any type of drama that dealt with people's lives and dealt with people's livelihoods in the terms that was very dangerous. However, the biggest struggle was coming to terms that I have been manipulative in a way. Back in the past, I manipulated myself to be a certain somebody, and for me to hold up that alter ego, for me to hold up that mask, I have to manipulate other people's lives and manipulate other people's perceptions of me so they can be in on the game, in on the game or in on the joke.
Sure.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And if anything, it was just like finding comfort in the uncomfort and allowing myself to be this person who is constantly changing and constantly learning. Who I was yesterday is not who I am today. And I promise who I am today is not going to be who I am tomorrow. If that's the case, then I'm not growing as a human being. So I think it's just adaptability has been the biggest challenge for me, because growing up, I never liked change. Also with a kid with autism as well, just like a low form of autism. That was kind of like my biggest pet peeve. Was like, if you change one little thing, I noticed it. I noticed. Like, my attention to detail is crazy. Yeah. So if you change one little detail, just know it's not going to slip by me. Like, I can see it. I can get that feeling, and I'm going to be upset. So if anything, it was breaking that mold that I set for 21 years. Right. And 2020, I talked about this with Matt. By the way, my last guest, Matt, We all work together at the Edge Fitness Clubs. If you need a membership, go to the Edge Fitness Clubs. Like
good deals.
We do it big. We do it big. You feel
Huge.
me? But yeah, I guess that's sponsored. I guess. But I was talking to Matt about 2020 and like being 21 years old and having that revelation that, okay, I got to do something different with my life.
Yeah.
And spirituality just kind of fell upon me. It was just like, it was just an epiphany that came out of nowhere.
Sure.
And
Did it start with something other than spirituality? Because I know with me,
psychology.
Psychology. Okay.
Yeah.
Psychology. Who was there? Someone that you looked to in psychology? Was it Jordan Peterson or?
Jordan Peterson is like, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with him.
Oh, sure.
Because I like his early works. But now I feel like he's gotten to a point where he's kind of chose a side, and I'm not really with choosing sides at all.
Choosing political side.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
like, I'm not a political guy at all. I
sure.
think at the end of the day, it's a game. There are some good points, but if I were to pick a side, then I'm automatically compromising the truth of what the other side is saying as well. So I like to just take the middle path, I guess you can say be moderate, but
That's probably a good place to be.
yeah, for sure.
That's
Like,
probably a good place to be.
because that puts me in the position where I can take a step back from any side, no matter if it's this side, that side, or what everybody else is saying. I'm like, okay, what's the truth of it all? And like, what's the best way to fulfill everybody's needs? Because we live in a world where 8 billion people have 8 billion needs.
Right.
And we need to fulfill the ones that work the best for everybody, where we all can come together, because not everything is going to be granted. Not every wish is going to be granted. We have to admit that. And that was kind of one of the biggest sacrifices that I had growing into spirituality, is that
Kicks.
that, and also it's like a lot of these things that you quote unquote want, you don't really want, because other people have put that there, pop culture has put that there, or it's just like you have an attachment to some sort of pleasure and you don't want to give up that pleasure just to feel some type of pain. But the pain of growth is better than the pain of regret.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of remind myself every day of that quote and understand that, okay, it's either I go through the growing pains or I go through the pains of, man, I should have done this or I should have done that. And I'm only 25. So it's like I have so much life in me. But if I don't get started now, like we were talking about with, just starting a podcast, all you have to do is just start. Like you said, when you came here, you just have to try.
Yeah.
And then just from trying, just from starting, it's an open book.
Sure.
So, but that requires a vast level of open-mindedness. So when it comes to like spirituality, and especially you being a Christian, which you guys kind of get a bad rap for not being open-minded.
Oh, sure.
But like you said, there's so many different denominations, and some denominations are very, very stuck in their way. With you being a Lutheran, how does open-mindedness portray to you, not only to other denominations of Christianity, but other ways of life outside of Christianity as well?
Sure. Yeah. So this is what I'm a little scared of this conversation, not because I don't think I'm going to say something incorrectly, but there's a lot of Christians and there's a lot of people that would have a lot of problems if I said something that minorly incorrectly.
For sure.
And that's okay. I'm human. I'm a student. We're still learning out here. So
but the people that get mad are very closed-minded as well.
Oh, there you go. There you go. But as a Christian, what is an unequivocal fact is that we hold that Jesus Christ is Lord and that he is the way, the truth, and the life. Now, in regards to other people, other beliefs, other belief systems, how should we deal with these? Well, the Bible is very simple. The Bible is very clear in this. Treat you guys with respect. Treat you guys with and honor you guys. And we don't hold other people of other beliefs to the same standard as you as a Christian.
Yeah.
Right? Because you as a Christian believe that there is one true God, and his name is Yahweh. right? Now, how do we interact? That's a real question. Do we hate them? Do we despise them? Or do we begrudgingly, talk at the side of our mouth because they don't believe what we believe? No, we proclaim. We proclaim what we believe, and we let God do the rest. And faith is given to you. Now, what does that mean? Faith is given to you. That means that there's no amount of convincing that I could do to get you to believe. It's going to be God. God's going to make you believe. And so me and my job, my only job, is to proclaim. Now, the hate happens when we do this incorrectly. When we love. When we don't love. When we hate others because they don't see the same thing that we see or believe the same thing that we believe. And it's a hard task to do what we do because we want to be right and we know we are right. But how do we carry that out? In love and in truth. I don't dishonor anyone. Try not to. You might fall flat on your face and people communicate incorrectly all the time. And there's a lot of Christians that try to force it down your throat all the time. Like they're carrying the picket signs at the end of the road and they're saying you're going to go to hell. And while that might be partially true in some way, my goal is not to send you to hell, or my goal is not to proclaim death upon you. My goal is to proclaim life to you, that life found in Jesus Christ. And how should I communicate that in a loving way? Where we have conversations like this, right? Where we have open dialogue, where I'm not just trying to come here with an agenda, where I'm actually listening to you and what you need, right? We just talked about needs of the world. What are the needs of the world? Christ comes to you. God comes to you. God listens to you. There's a story in the Bible where there was a storm on a sea and Jesus' disciples were all on the boat. And Jesus sent them across the lake, and so he knew they were on the boat, and Jesus is walking on the water. And so as they're on the boat and the waves are crashing and everything's crazy, they see a ghost, right? And they're freaking out. And eventually they realize it's Jesus. Jesus is walking on the water. And there's a moment when one of the disciples says, "Lord, if that's you, let me come to you." Right? Jesus is like, okay. And this is the thing that's focused most on the story. A lot of Baptist preachers or evangelical preachers focus on the disciple going to Jesus. What I think is probably more important is that amidst all the storm, amidst all the chaos, is that Christ came to him. Because what was happening is, though the disciple came and walked on the water, he eventually fell, right? And then the next scene is that Christ reaches into the water and picks him up. And that's faith. That's our faith, that God comes to you. In the same way, if you want ailments, if you want peace, Christ will give you peace. If you want hope, Christ will give you unlimited hope. And now, we don't believe in God just for the benefits. We believe in this because it's the truth.
Yeah, you were talking about a couple of days ago, one of the ships that we were working together was you were focusing on God and not believing in God for the benefits. Can you go deeper into that? Because I'm very curious. I don't think we really touched on that because that was something I was like, save it.
Oh,
so that would be a great talking point.
Yeah.
So like when you say people are just doing religion or getting into religion for the benefits, because I have my takes on it, but I want to hear your takes.
Yeah.
What is that and how do you avoid that?
Okay. Well, I think you've already started on the path of trying to avoid that in the pursuit of the truth.
For sure.
And that's great. The issue is the truth is hard, and the truth is not always. You can't handle the truth. That's right. right? All these, when we call someone out and it really hurts them, it's because partially it might be true.
The truth hurts. Yeah, for sure.
And then they get offended and we get defensive and then we get pain, and pain comes into our life and we have to reorient the way we think about situations and ourselves. And so it starts with the truth is going to hurt, most likely. And we see this image everywhere. In order for the phoenix to rise, he has to die, right? And what's another example of resurrection? The butterfly going into his cocoon, he has to kind of stay stagnant and die to his caterpillarliness, and eventually he can become something more. It's resurrection. It's a new life. But in order to get there, it's going to take a lot of pain. It's going to take a lot of suffering. It's going to take a lot of dying to yourself, a lot of humility.
That's the first noble truth of Buddhism, is that life is suffering. And suffering is caused through attachment and desire. When we attach ourselves to anything that is especially finite and desire something that is finite, knowing that as soon as you get it, it may be gone quicker than what you got it. That is hard for us to really hear, because we want everything. A lot of us want everything. We want to maintain life for eternity, but that's not the case here. Like you said, if you want to grow, you have to die. And if anything, it was, and what brings me to that is kind of a quote that I love. For you to enter the kingdom of God, you have to become like a child, but you have to die first for that to happen, because you build up this ego, you build up this identity, and you building that up, and through this accumulation of actions, thoughts, material items, and these ideas of who you are, you get disconnected from the whole. You get disconnected from God because you fall in love with the creation rather than the creator. And you're attaching yourself to the creation and putting the creation over the creator, which is crazy. How can you do that? Because if it wasn't for the creator, you wouldn't have this creation. Right. So at the end of the day, you're not showing a higher level of gratitude towards the one that put you on this planet and put you in this ability to grow and learn from within. Rather, you're taking the power outside of yourself and outside of your spirituality. You're pulling into these superficial things that have an expiration date. Right. And that's tough, for sure.
What did you just say there? You said something about outside of yourself, right? Outside of yourself. That is probably the biggest point that I've learned at seminary. Outside of yourself. We live in a time where everything comes from self. It's undeniable. Yes. We have to be convinced of what we believe. We have to be convinced that that's the best product. We have to be convinced that that's the best artist. We have to be convinced that we should honor our father and mother. We have to be convinced of all these things, because we always question. And we're always asking why. Right? We're always asking, why should I believe this? And what is the purpose, and how is it going to fulfill my life? And this is very American. This is very human, that we have to be convinced of why. We have to be convinced, and then the self becomes the highest ethic, right? The guiding principles, how can I, or what is this going to do for me? And how can I justify my belief in this, right? What used to be is that people just believed because they believed. They didn't just magically come to these, they didn't have these formulas to eventually answer all the questions that they had in life.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't have to be convinced. It just what it is. And so we have this consumeristic mentality of God. We have this consumeristic mentality of how is it going to benefit me and why should I believe it? And so this goes back to the point of of your question, that how do we move out of that? First of all, I don't think we can. I don't think we can move out of this materialistic, consumeristic mindset because it's so ingrained in us. When we were in first grade, what is the first thing that we kind of learned? Ask why. And then we learned the scientific method, right? A plus B equals C, right? 1 + 1 = 2. And so we all have this mentality of things need to make sense. In order for me to follow something, it needs to make sense for my life. The issue is with spirituality, it's not going to make sense.
Yeah. Intellectual sense.
None.
Yeah, because we're diving into realms that if we come at it in pure emotion or pure intellectual, then we're limiting ourselves of what the full on truth is, because we have to take elements and analyze through both elements rather than just one. And I think 9 times out of 10, especially in the Western world, we try to intellectualize it too much.
Right.
And we're not nearly connected with our emotions as we should, because truth not only is a thought, not only is it an idea, but it's a feeling as well, especially when we realize when we're trying to figure out who we are and our subjective truth.
Right.
That's a feeling.
Right. And I think what it's truth lies outside of yourself.
Yes.
Right. That was the whole point of what I just said. Truth lies outside of yourself. And it's not going to come from you finding this magical reason why it's the truth. It's not going to make sense to you, because if it did, then the God is comprehensible at that point.
Exactly.
God is someone that's, I can finally come to the understanding of why and how God works. Right? And now God is going to fit all my understandings of how life works. And so I justify my suffering. I justify all the things of life through my conception of what is the truth, not because it's ununderstandable. It's the problem of suffering. Suffering is a tough thing to deal with if you believe in God, because the main question is, why would a good God exist if
there's suffering?
There is suffering.
Exactly.
And this leads a lot of people down the atheist route.
This is why people call Buddhism very hypocritical, because they think that Buddhism is supposed to be, like you said, it's supposed to be all positive and all caring and a good form of finding who you are, let alone finding the truth of reality around you. But the first noble truth is that life is suffering, and that we have to go through suffering, and that it's our own desires is which stimulates that suffering. And it doesn't mean that we don't have to desire at all. It's that don't desire so much that you identify with that desire to the point where you cannot live without desiring. Which means if you don't desire, then you're perfectly fine with everything that is going on right now.
Interesting. That's a tough one.
Yeah. And that's tough because you may not be in where you want to be in life right now at this second. But Buddhism is basically telling you that's fine. Be okay with that. Don't want to fast forward to the future, or don't want to rewind time to go back into the past, or wish that you were back in the past. Be okay with what's happening right now, even if it's a very sufferable moment. Be okay with that.
And so you relinquish your want for things because you want to relinquish desire.
It's not even, it's hooking to desire. It's okay to want to be better. That's why we're here. But understand the capacity to be better is available to you right now. It's not going to be available to you later on. It's available for you right now, which means it's directing your focus on what can I do right now?
Right.
Rather than desiring the answer later on.
Right.
The answer's within you.
So what do you do when you have a desire?
Be still. Honestly, that's kind of the biggest. Anytime I'm conflicted, or anytime I continue to go down a realm of desire and trying to go too fast and try to speed life up, the best way to combat that is be still and fully, and not even analyze, but take a step back and observe, okay, why do I have this desire? What does this desire bring to me? What are the benefits? What are the negatives, pros, cons? But at the end of the day, it's like everything that I need is here right now. Everything that I need is completely here right now, and I don't have to chase for anything. I don't have to fast forward. I don't have to rewind for anything. Everything that I truly need at this moment, I have it right now. I have the capacity to learn from my mistakes in the past, and I have the capacity to build ambition for the future. But I can't fully step into that without being here and now, because that's when I can truly utilize wisdom and ambition.
Yeah. I'm trying to digest all of this because it's a very different mentality.
Yeah.
It's very hard to digest, like these spiritual truths. I was doing some research on Buddhism and Hinduism right before this podcast, and it's totally opposite of anything that we can that Americans in particular
for sure
can digest in just one. I was doing 3 hours of research. It's insane. The levels that we're working with here are so high. Yeah. And on top of that, you put the Christian level and trying to discern all of that, it becomes crazy.
And that's the beauty behind Eastern philosophy, is that we never discount Christianity, because in the eyes of Buddhism, all the Buddhas and all the monks see Jesus Christ as a Buddha. They say that he's not outside. They say that Jesus Christ has attained Buddhahood.
Can you explain that? What is Buddhahood?
Buddha is in Sanskrit for enlightened one. Mm-hmm. So if anything, they are saying that Jesus Christ is an enlightened being walking the earth and teaching the ways of enlightenment to others, because enlightenment is the highest level of consciousness. Mm-hmm. To be enlightened is to constantly learn and to learn the truth, and it's a revelation of a truth that continuously unfolds. And that's what Jesus Christ held, is that the continuous unfolding of truth day in and day out. And he was a vessel for that truth and just giving it to the rest of humanity. Whether if humanity liked it or not, he continued to walk that path. And that's what the Buddha did as well. The biggest issue that the Buddha had is that, how can I take this truth that in its root is incomprehensible, doesn't have any words, doesn't have a face, doesn't have a form? How can I put it in ways that a baby can understand?
What did he do?
He came up with a list of parables. And there's a bunch of parables. Sure. But I don't know the parables off the top of my head, to be honest, because they're like, one, it's translated from Sanskrit, which is very difficult at times. Just trying to find the most accurate translation to that is very, very difficult. And two, I've gotten started on the Lotus Sutra, which is kind of like the Bible of spirituality. Not spirituality, of Buddhism. And it's a tough read.
Is it?
Yes, it's a very tedious read.
The Bible can be a tedious read.
For sure.
That's for sure.
And I mean, again, like we're saying, those are handbooks into deeper levels of understanding, deeper levels of consciousness, that you're trying to dissect something that is unknowable, indescribable. And that's very, very tough. And you don't want to get any type of ego in the way, which has been one issue that I've had with Christianity, because there are, and we agreed upon this, that there are certain forces and certain groups of people that try to infiltrate Christianity as a whole to use it in the terms of manipulation.
Of course.
How do you feel about that? Because you, sir, have found salvation within this vessel that is Lutheran Christianity. How do you feel about people trying to twist the words of Christianity and spirituality in general, because there's always that one group of people that try to take Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, especially Islam here in the last couple of years, like it has gotten a bad rep, but it's a very beautiful way of life that is very connected to Christianity because it's one of the three monotheistic religions that stemmed from the same book, which is the Old Testament, correct?
Old Testament.
Yes.
New Testament. Yeah. How do I feel about that?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
the gloves are coming off.
I have very strong opinions against this.
Yes.
Jesus had very strong opinions against this as well.
Very true. Yes.
The man hated. You could justifiably use the word hated anyone who did this.
Annoyed too.
Annoyed. Yeah. I mean, the man was flipping over tables in a temple. He was pissed. And so the thing that we have at seminary, what we're told is that every single one of you guys is going to stand before God. And as a leader of the people of God and the people outside of the church, you are accountable to every single thing that you say, and you are accountable to every single person that you deny, and you are accountable to every single person that you manipulate. And you should be, the beginning of all wisdom is the fear of God, right? So with these people that use God, good luck. Good luck. Because this is why I'm very careful to say what I say or say, be preaching generally. It's because I know that I'm accountable to God. And look, it's not my job to judge you. It's not my job to say, Joel Osteen, he's going to hell or something like that. You know who that is? He's a mega.
You know what's hilarious? And that kind of brings to the music thing. So Joel Osteen was name dropped in Kendrick's diss.
Oh, yeah?
Because apparently he's been getting like a bunch of AI people trying to pretend like him because it's just funny. I've never heard it. Yeah. But I'm sure it's funny. I'm sure it's funny, but he just kind of put a twist on words. I don't want to get into the whole diss thing right now because that's a whole conversation for later. Me being a huge Kendrick fan right now, I'm very happy with where we're at in this diss. But that's a story for a different time. Well, if we want to get into that, we can get into that. But I'm going to let you finish what you were saying, though.
Yeah. So I know I'm going to stand before God. And I know that everyone else will stand before God. Their decisions of manipulation, it's not my sword to put down on their neck.
It's not my type of people, though.
Yeah, for sure. They're not my type of people either. And we call them out in brotherly love because they say they believe in the same thing that we believe. So we call them out justifiably because that's what accountability is. But at the end of the day, they're going to stand before God. The Bible says, anyone who makes a little one stumble, a little child stumble, it's better for him to have a cement block wrapped around his neck and thrown to the bottom of the ocean. Those are strong words.
Yeah.
Those are heavy words.
Very.
You should be thrown to the bottom of the ocean. Tough. Now, what does that mean about what we teach? What does that mean about what we preach? What does that mean about how we live?
Yeah, because some people can take that as a green light for doing very negative things, when at the end of the day, it's just a metaphor or just kind of like a visualization of like what will happen to you if you use those words of God against him. Yeah.
And I think a big part about Christianity is knowing that justice is not your own to take up. Even against the government, even against people that are persecuting you, even the people that hate you, even the people that are using your belief against others. Our job, to clarify, as people in the church, is to call out people in the church. So we call them out. We toss out the diss tracks. We do what we do. But at the end of the day, God is going to do what he does, and Christ is coming. So good luck to any pastor out there. I mean, that's a serious call, and it's a serious responsibility for myself and for my other seminary students too. This is the burden of the truth. And this is the burden of using the truth and saying and speaking the truth. It's that if you use it to manipulate people, well, good luck.
And that's kind of like, that brings me back to a conversation that we had about karma a couple of days ago. And at first there was a disagreement, and then I kind of explained where I was coming from in terms of karma, because whenever I bring up karma, I like to do an explanation of what I see and what karma actually is, because the Western civilization has painted karma as such a negative thing. When karma is just a neutral force in the universe, that whatever energy you give into it is what you're going to get back. So if you are painting this face saying that you know God, but you're lying on God at the same time, just know there's going to be heavy repercussions for those actions. And that's why every single day I make sure that, okay, I have to do my research, and I have to continue to learn and be open to be humbled and to learn new things and not get stuck on a certain level of spirituality or a certain level of consciousness and a certain level of perception, because we live in a world that is constantly changing, and the answers are just showing themselves in many different ways. And the truth is always not being blind, but it's like there's so many different paths to truth. Which is the best path for me to recognize that truth? I see it in different ways of life, not just one, because I don't like to just be limited to Buddhism, because I don't even think Jesus would call himself a Christian. He would call himself a human being, and his religion is love. Same thing with Buddha. The Buddha never considered himself a Buddhist. He considered himself an agent of love. And that was what his religion was. So at the end of the day, I'm not looking at how can I be a better Buddhist, but how can I be a better agent of love? And an agent of love is awakening and allowing change to come into our life, and constantly have our perception be knocked down and built back up constantly, because everything in reality is changing, and there's so many different ways to look at truth, and truth is always changing as well, or actually at least getting added on to. Truth is constantly being stacked on it. So, yeah.
We're discovering truth.
Yes, constantly. Yeah, you said way better than I did.
Hey, no, I mean, this is complicated stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this is all our human perspective about an eternal thing, eternal God. And it takes time.
But what I wanted to get into in terms of karma is that a lot of the people that use spirituality for material means or for selfish means, you're operating an ego, and you're not allowing yourself to see past that. Like I said earlier, you're not allowing yourself to see past your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, for something better to come into your life. So now you're going to use that to manipulate people, and karma is going to hit you in the head very quickly. It's like, if you are manipulating other people, simultaneously you're manipulating yourself into believing this game, into believing that this joke is going to save you, that this joke is going to help you. But in due time, like you said, like there's people where that ask the question, why do good things happen to bad people? It's because they're manipulating the odds towards them. But when the game is all finished, they are going to go down heavy and hard.
Yeah.
We don't see it right now, but a lot of things are brewing up behind closed doors, in which, there's a lot of messiness happening.
Sure. Let me tell you something else about what I think about these people, the manipulators.
Imposters.
So there are two sides of God, and I told you about one side, justice.
Yes.
That's very clear. Our God is a just God. You will receive what you gave, right?
Yeah.
But there's another side of God, and this is probably the most important side of God that we need. It's the side of mercy and grace. So, despite the fact that they manipulate, we have to realize too that sometimes we manipulate. We manipulate ourselves. We manipulate others. I know I have, for sure. I know I've made mistakes, for sure. I know I will probably say something terrible that will take people down the wrong path, 100%. And it's the easiest thing in the world to look at someone like Joel Osteen and crush him. But this is the point of Jesus Christ.
Is he like, to Joel Osteen, is he like this dude that's in mega churches and stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah. Mega church, give me your money. God will bless you if you give me money kind of guy.
Yeah, that's weird. That's
Manipulation.
super weird.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what do we say to these people? We say that despite the fact that you manipulate and you use my name, God's name, in vain and for your benefit, the point of Jesus Christ was that he died for that. That despite the fact that you manipulate, despite the fact that you are nasty and gross, the judgment is not on you. It's on Christ. It's on Jesus. And this is the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
This is the part where it makes no sense. That your sin, my sin, your sin, everyone's sin, is not on you anymore. It's already been dealt with. It's already been judged in Christ. Period. Now, what do we do with people who currently use manipulation? We have grace because God had grace. We have mercy because God had mercy.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful point that you just point out. Everything that you just said is how karma works as well. So it's like, I'm not that guy that tries to say that karma is outside of that. If anything, you are describing karma in a completely different way, in the best of your understanding. Because as soon as we commit any type of action, whether if it's holy or sinful, that is up to karma to decide what you get back in return.
Yeah.
So karma is, yes, you know that you're getting this energy reciprocated back to you. It's just how you don't know that.
Right.
Like you said, the judgment, you don't know how that judgment is going to come. Right. However, we are always at mercy of that judgment, and we should always be at mercy of that judgment. And we should never paint that type of judgment on other people, because who am I to judge you and to give you some sort of judgment? Does that make me above you? Does that make me the God of you, the master of you? No, that is not the purpose of humanity, to rule over each other. It's to rule together. It's to stand together. And at the end of the day, we don't rule anything, because I have an expiration date. You have an expiration date. So it's like, whatever I say that I rule, just know it's going to be ruled for as long as I'm here. And as soon as I'm gone, it's up for grabs. So what's the point at the end of the day?
Time is given to you.
Yes. It's a gift. Everything's a gift. So why am I taking God's gifts and saying that this is mine when it's us, when it's ours? It's right. Yeah. Again, that is not within my judgment for me to say that. That's within God's judgment.
Right. When you say God, what do you mean? Do you mean a particular God? Do you mean the crown chakra, right? This is the thing outside of yourself?
When I say God, I say something that is indescribable. When I say something, it's the creator of all things. And God lies within everything. And we are conscious to perceive and understand this God on a certain level. But that understanding is changing and growing every single day, because it's infinite. That's why we have change in this reality, is because there's infinite ways for me to grow and infinite paths for me to walk. But I have to be at mercy of that path, because if I feel like I know everything, then 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna walk myself off a cliff rather than getting to the place that I need to be and returning home. So it's like I'm always at mercy of change. I cannot control anything in this reality. If anything, I leave it up to God, whatever you say, nature, the universe, it's all the same thing. But I've never had the belief that it was a person in the sky at all. Because that was my biggest issue, especially with Renaissance paintings. That's when we started to get into paintings with God as an image, which can misconstrue a lot of people to the point where it's like, oh, God looks like this. God has these features when God has no features whatsoever.
Did you know Judaism is the same way? So Judaism, Christianity, right?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Catholicism.
Yes.
Judaism has a real problem with this, the same thing that you did, the personification of a God, right? Islam as well. You can't draw paintings of God.
Yes.
Or Muhammad, right? Very disrespectful.
Yes.
And so Judaism has this idea that Christ, Jesus, is not God because you cannot personify God because he is God, right? Christianity makes the next jump and says, no, the personification of God is Jesus Christ. Christ said, anyone who sees me sees the Father, right? And that's a weird one because what happens when God becomes tangible? That means that every word that comes from this book that he says is going to probably be the most important words to ever exist, right? I was reading the, sorry if I'm going on a side tangent here, but
No, you're good.
I was reading this.
Is that a Bible right there?
This is Bible, yeah.
Hey.
ESV thin line edition. If you want to pick one up, CPH always can hook you up.
Make
or
sure.
Amazon.
Make sure you get it.
Oh
right.
yeah.
Yeah, there
My
you go.
bad, my
There
bad.
you go. Yeah, you can feel free to move it around and everything.
Yeah, it's
Pause.
fragile. It's a
But-
little fragile. Okay, so I was reading this, and it some of it makes no sense to me. And I'm a seminarian, so that's kind of weird,
Oh, for sure.
right? It's just
All types of religious texts have those moments
They're
where it's
heavy,
like,
bro.
what is going on?
right. And what's funny about that is that Jesus' disciples were like, "What do you mean, bro?" And he's like, "What do you mean? What do I mean? I'm making perfect sense. If I can tell you about earthly things, what makes you think that you can't understand heavenly things? Or why should I tell you about heavenly things if you can't understand earthly things, which I'm explaining right here, and you're not getting, right?"
Yeah.
But anyway, like just hear this one. Hear this one. You have heard it said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other cheek to him also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. This one's interesting too. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. And these are bangers, all of them. And this next is, he teaches the Lord's Prayer in this in Matthew, and he teaches, do not be anxious about anything. And he teaches about judging others, and he teaches about what you should build your house upon. All of these things, but this one in particular, let me tell you the significance of just one of these. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. So
Very merciful.
it is very merciful, but it's even more than that. It's paradigm shifting.
Yes.
The Jew at this time needs to be spiritually clean. That means he can't eat certain things. That means he can't touch dead bodies. That means he can't lay with his wife.
That is crazy that you brought this up because I went into I saw something on my phone, like a parable on my phone. It was about fasting. And I'm nearing the end of my bulk, which I'm about to go into like a deep fast. And I've noticed like within bulking, because you eat a lot of food, I've seen a profound difference in my way of thinking and the way that I approach spirituality is because it's like I'm being bogged down in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's for a good purpose, and I don't feel negative for doing it at all, because I'm doing it for a purpose. I'm building it in a healthy type of way. Sure. But at the same time, it's like I've learned just how important fasting is, right, and allowing yourself to like, just fasting is not having anything to do with just eating too. Right. It's like cleaning your mind, cleaning your thoughts, cleaning your emotions. It's a whole spiritual cleanse of every single part of your being.
Right.
And that's what people need to realize, how important a fast is that you're cleansing your entire being, not just your stomach and your body.
There are physical benefits and there are spiritual benefits
very much
to these things. And
that's what the Buddha did. He sat under the tree for 40 days and 40 nights and he fasted. Did nothing but stay still.
Weird.
And that's when he found his enlightenment. And 40 days and 40 nights is very, very, very powerful in terms of many different ways of living.
Christianity, Jesus, 40 days, 40 nights. Yeah, as well.
40 days, 40 nights for in the flood as well, right?
I don't remember.
What's that?
I don't remember.
No, I think that's the desert. I could be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
No, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights.
I got to look it up a little bit more, but
I'll look it up right now while you talk, though.
All right. Well, what were we talking about before? I apologize. I kind of got sidetracked.
Mercy. And you were talking about walk with him force them to walk a mile, you walk with him for 2.
Right. Now mercy is expressed. Well, I just learned this in my systematics class. So when someone asks you to walk 1 mile, what this is usually connotated to, what this is usually described as, is a soldier telling you to carry his pack, right? So that the pagan to the Jew would tell him to carry your pack. What that would mean is that the Jew would then become unclean, and they're not supposed to be unclean, right? It's actually one of the most disgusting acts ever because he's a murderer too. So you touching that is
touching what?
His pack.
Oh, okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Is like you becoming detestable and gross, and you becoming spiritually unclean, and you becoming unclean generally. So you have to make a sacrifice. Now, as far as mercy, and as far as what this means, it means that what Jesus Christ is saying is that I want you to have mercy, and I want you to continue not only to walk 1 mile with this person that's making you unclean, but I want you to walk 2. If someone is telling you that they need your cloak, you give them your underwear too, right? You give them everything. That's how much mercy I want you to have, and that's how much grace I want you to have, and that's who I'm calling you to be. To walk into the darkness and to maybe even be corrupt by it, but know that I'm the one that cleans you.
That one hit. That hit. Because it hits even more because I see the actions of other people. And if anything, we look down on people for being merciful. And we're very hesitant to give what we have because we, like I said earlier, we identify so much with the things that we have to the point where it's like, if I were to give what I have, I'm giving myself away because I've attached myself to this very thing. It's like, I always feel the need to give money out to people that are on the street. I don't care what they do with that money because that's their karma and that's their actions and that falls upon them however it does.
Right.
However, if I'm in the position to give what I have to somebody, I'm going to do so because I know a lot of the people that I give to aren't going to do the same thing, aren't going to have a bed to sleep in. They're not going to have a podcast to talk to. They're not going to have a job to go to. If anything, they're down bad for whatever reason. That's completely up to them. But however I can help and however I can show mercy and show you that you're still a human being and that I still care for you in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to give you that.
Right. This is about our witness to what we believe.
Yes.
This is about who we are and who we are made to be in God.
Yes.
And if we believe that God is the one who...
Leave no man or woman behind or child behind. For sure.
Yeah.
I heavily know in that. Like, not even a belief, but know in that. Because it's like, if I decide who I can stand up for and who I can't stand up for and who I care for and who I don't care for, it's like, I don't know, it just makes me feel like I'm portraying myself as a God when I'm not a God. But paradoxically, if God's within me, then yes, but no at the same time. I'm not the ruler of this reality. Yes, I'm a master of my own reality, but I'm not a master of your reality. I am the master of my subjective reality, but not the master of an objective reality, because that's something that is steered and guided by a force that at the end of the day, while I'm connected to, I'm still at mercy to it because it's incomprehensible. So it's like, all right, bro, you do your own thing. It's like, I know that we're essentially the same force. It's just, I don't have the access that you have at all, because I can't even recognize who you are completely in words or intellectualize that. It's only just a feeling that I sit with through meditation and being in the conscious state of flow and state of being. It's not through actions. It's not through words, not through thoughts or anything. So I'm like, again, I'm at mercy to this force day in and day out. And if this force is telling me to love other people, I'm at mercy of them.
What do you do with people that hate you?
That hate me?
Haters going to hate?
Boundaries. I don't hate you right back. It's just, I know if you hate me and you feel a certain way, and I know if I'm around you, then I might get struck down in some way, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, any type of abuse. I have my boundaries.
Of course.
I have my walls that I set up. But just because I have walls doesn't mean I don't love you.
Right.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I will give you my love, but I have my boundaries.
Right.
And if you overstep, then I have to do what I have to do to protect my boundaries.
Yeah.
And protect the people around me as well.
Yeah. This is the weird thing about Christianity too, is that, okay, of course boundaries are important. And if you're in an abusive situation, you need to step away.
Yeah.
And do things with discernment. But at the same time, what this verse was also saying is that the person who hates you, you continue to love them and you care for them and you be there for them, and you keep being abused. If someone punches you on the right, you give them the left, right? If someone wants something of yours, you give it to them, right? If someone is so adamant about destroying you, you let them. Is that saying you should be a doormat? Yes, it is. Because you understand that the kingdom that's coming.
Like a pacifist?
Like a pacifist. Jesus was the ultimate pacifist, was he not? He died. Yeah. He didn't, he could have sent down holy angels to bring him justice, but he didn't, because he had a mission and he knew that God will eventually, through him, forgive all the sins of the world. But going back to it, the call of a Christian is to die to yourself and is to continue to suffer, because that's how we love. And we are a witness of God's love to us, which is unlimited. How many times should we forgive a person? Unlimited, 70 times 7.
Yeah.
Right? One for each and every single day of the week. And if they keep violating it, you keep showing up and you keep showing up and you keep showing up. And it's not anything about, what do I get out of it? You get nothing out of it. What you do have in your prize is Christ. What you do have is eternal life. What you do have is hope, even in that terrible circumstance, because God said so.
Facts.
And
I think this definitely brings up the Holy Trinity in, it's not called the Holy Trinity, obviously, but the interpretation of the Holy Trinity in Hinduism. You have Brahman, Shiva, and who else? Fact checking, ladies and gentlemen, fact checking. But essentially, you have the creator, you have the preserver, and you have the destroyer. And it kind of brings to mind that at the end of the day, it's not within our judgment. We're here to love and we're here to preserve life. We're not here to destroy life. Even though that man can be God in some way, shape, or form in terms of judging what lives and what dies, because there's forces out here that are killing nature, that's killing animals, that's killing other people, and feeling that, the judgment of God is in their hands to do so. It's like, I'm a man that can take life away and bring life to this earth as well, especially as a woman, like you bring life into this world. But at the same time, there's divine forces out there that is doing that for you. So why try to do it for the divine when the divine's going to do it anyway? The divine creates, but creates, maintains, and destroys all at the same time. What's being created right in front of you, there may be something on the other side of the entire galaxy that's being destroyed right now. Simultaneously, what we are here to do is to preserve life and to preserve love. Because what do you want to do with your life? I want to preserve my life as long as I can. I want longevity in my life, but I want that for others as well. I want to preserve all of life to the best of my ability.
Right.
But what is destroyed is not within my grasp. I shouldn't go out of my way to destroy somebody because I know there is a force out there that is destroying very willingly because it has to. And I have to allow that energy to proceed. Because would you agree that whatever God has created, it can easily just destroy if it want to?
God gives, God takes away.
Exactly. So why should I do that to somebody else? To your point.
Do you feel that, do you feel like you have hope?
Hope? For sure. I won't even say...
Hope in what?
Hope in what? What do you mean?
What do you have hope in? What do you mean? What grounds you?
Mine is all about transcending consciousness. My hope is in transcending consciousness for people to uplift themselves and understand not only who they are, but what this is, the isness of reality. And that's what keeps me going, is the isness of reality, is not picking and choosing sides, but understanding that both sides are necessary to the whole. Understanding that life and death are necessary, that polarity is necessary, that positive and negative is necessary. However, with me being a conscious human being and activated and operating in a conscious state of awareness, I can choose love or hate. I can choose positive or negative. I can choose whatever actions I want to be, and I have to align my actions with right action.
What happens if you choose wrong?
Again, I am at mercy. I understand that I'm not perfect. And I take it as a learning experience rather than something to beat myself up. I used to beat myself up a lot, but now I just look at it in a way where I have mercy for myself. I'm like, all right, I'm not perfect. And I do that the same to other. Instead of yelling at you for doing something wrong, I'm like, it's cool, bro. Like, what right do I have? Because if I were to do that to you, that's only a reflection of what I do to myself. Everything in reality is just a reflection of what's going on internally, because life starts internally. Life starts with the self. And when I say the self, I don't mean Houston Himes. I don't mean Erick. I don't mean Michael Jackson. I don't mean the self is the accumulation of all things. The self is God in Eastern philosophy. Eastern philosophy doesn't use the term God. It uses the self, which is the same thing. And the self is deeper than the I. It's the accumulation of all things. The self is found within you and I. The self is found within this table. The self is found within music, It's found within the water. It's found within everything. It is the ultimate truth of all things that is found within it. That's what I say the self is. And my faith is in the self, and knowing that the self, that God will always persevere, regardless of what our actions are. I can't control the entire actions of humanity, and what actions of other humans do, that's what they do. But I control my actions. I have faith in my actions. I have faith in mine is mine. I have faith in being a vessel for God to speak to humanity and channel that and walk like the Buddha did, walk like Jesus did, walk like Muhammad did.
Right.
Nor do I proclaim to be them. I just be myself and be the vessel, and the best vessel that I can be. Because at the end of the day, like Houston Himes is just a thought. It's just a construct.
Yeah, I think that's where we sort of differ. I believe that Erick Quezada is eternal. Or he's eternal. He's finite, okay? But God makes him eternal because he wants to be with Erick Quezada. And he also wants to be with Houston Himes.
I see what you mean. I just think when I say Houston Himes, I know that it's just a name given to me. But my being is greater than the identification of Houston Himes and what he likes and what he doesn't like. Stuff like that.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah.
So to your point, it's like I definitely agreed with that. It's just I just had a way to
express it.
Yeah, a different way to express it.
Oh, sure.
So
I know you like expressing yourself generally. You're an artist guy.
I love art.
Yeah. And you're a filmmaker, right?
Yeah. Getting into that.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad that you brought this up because I kind of wanted to talk about.
Of course.
Music is something I love to express myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about your track.
My
Why'd
what?
you choose that one?
So I picked it because Kendrick right now is cooking in the rap beef. The reason why I'm more of a Kendrick fan is that I'm not a Drake hater by any means. I do like Drake's music for sure, but there's a certain level of depth and storytelling and creativity that Kendrick has that Drake doesn't have. Drake found his algorithm. He has found what works for him, and he's not really going to go outside of that. What a true artist is constantly breaking barriers, and if it takes me getting uncomfortable and risk-taking to break barriers, I will do that. Drake doesn't really do that. Drake's music now has sound the same since 10 years ago.
I can't stand Drake, to be honest.
I'm not. I mean, there are certain things that Drake does that I don't like, and I'm just like, whatever,
I feel like
bro.
It just sounded the same, like you just said.
Yeah, that's
just
what I'm saying.
Similar.
That's
all
what
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and I can respect that to a certain level. But I am somebody that loves change now, and I want change. I want to hear something new. Kendrick, every single album, every single project, he has been able to do so.
Right.
That's why I'm always going to say Kendrick for the win. And he's showing that in this beef is just how creative and how much layers in his work he puts in, how much attention to his work he puts in compared to Drake. And also, with me being able to read auras and read other people very, very well, I started to realize that Drake is a very industry type of person, and Kendrick is an artist.
Yeah, sure.
And whenever you consider yourself attached to the industry, you're not really the most, because the music industry is brutal, very brutal. It's ran by people that very negative in their heart, very negative and demonic in the way that they approach. And that's found in many different industries, the film industry too.
The demonic part's weird.
Well, like I said earlier, it's
what
like,
do you mean by that? Sorry.
like I said, spirituality is not just positive, but it's negative as well. Like there's not only angels, but there's demons as well that know the truth of God as well, but they use it in very, very negative means. Like we said earlier, is that they're more ego driven and more material based driven, but they understand the teachings because the strongest angel of all time, I won't say the strongest, but I don't know what the best word would be because I don't want to say strongest,
highest
but I don't
ranking.
know. Huh?
Highest ranking.
I guess you would say, wasn't it Lucifer and then he fell?
Lucifer, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was an angel and he understood the church, but he fell.
Yeah.
And that knowledge didn't leave him. If anything, he's using that knowledge to manipulate people and to suck their energy dry, literally and metaphorically. And that's kind of what these industries and these corporations, and I mean, I can go deep into that because I'm a big conspiracy guy as well.
Yeah, sure.
But using other people's creativity is one of the biggest manipulative trends that you can do and infiltrate a certain industry because you know that there are a lot of people that are genuine in their approach. And there's people like Kendrick who are very godly in his approach. And he showed that in his last album by releasing Black Trauma, by being very open with his trauma, being very open with his spirituality, being very open with his conflictions and the things that he's been through to a level where it's like he didn't really care about the sales because the album in terms of numbers wise didn't do well. But the language that he was speaking wasn't intended for that. Right. It wasn't intended for everybody. It was intended for the people that understood it and that are on the same path, as he is. And if it resonated with you, it resonates. If not, then it doesn't. And that's why I love Kendrick because he takes risk taking. And Good Kid, Mad City was kind of just like the first album. I don't have Mr. Morale. If I had Mr. Morale, I would have put Mr. Morale up because I would have fit the conversation and the vibe of the podcast a lot more. But I picked Good Kid, Mad City because that was like the first project that really like that's what got me on the Kendrick. I remember listening to Swimming Pools on, it was either MTV or another station on TV, and they were playing his music video, The Swimming Pools, and he had different flows and everything, and it was just like, yeah, bro, this is amazing. And ever since then, like I just been 10 toes down on Kendrick. But the main reason why I picked him is because he's absolutely cooking Drake right now. I can go deep into the beef and like the amount of details that are in his music, but that's a story for a different time. What I want to know is, you picked my favorite artist of all time. Why is that?
The King?
Yeah.
King of Pop over here?
Yes, sir.
It's because we had a conversation not too long ago about the three most famous people in all of history.
Yeah.
And obviously Mike is just he's Mike. And I saw your Kobe shirt over there, and just wanted to shout out to Michael Jordan, kind of, using first name.
Kind of.
But greatest of all time.
Yeah, different
right?
MJ, but
it's greatest of all time.
Yes.
And obviously King of Pop, MJ, Michael Jordan, King of basketball. Remember, there's Kobe Bryant. He's one of my favorites ever.
Yeah. Also, you grew up in California too, so I want to hear that. I definitely want to hear like the impact because being in Missouri, there's no basketball team.
Brother, let me tell you something. The world stopped.
Yeah.
The world collapsed. I was in a mall at this point. I don't remember where I was.
I remember exactly where I was.
I don't know like exactly the demographic area or geographic area, but I remember being in a mall and then watching like a TV screen, and like it's like Kobe Bryant died.
Where were you at the time? Like, were you in California?
I was in California.
Oh, okay.
I was in California at that point, and I was with my family shopping in the mall.
Where exactly in California were you from again?
Eastvale, California. I'm from Eastvale, California.
Corona,
California. It's like
how
30,
far
40 minutes above San Diego.
Oh, okay. So you're in between San Diego and LA pretty much.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, okay. So you're pretty close to the hub.
We're pretty close to the hub. And so I was in this mall, and there was a guy wearing a Kobe jersey, right? And then you just hear everyone simultaneously like, be quiet. Then you just hear tears falling from people's eyeballs. Dude. And then I was like, what's going on? Got the update on my phone. Kobe Bryant dead. Helicopter accident. Bro.
Yeah, bro. That was. I remember I was working at Club Fitness at the time, and I was walking into like the storage closet, check my phone real quick, and I'm getting a bunch of texts from my friends saying that Kobe died. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And and then from there, I was in the storage closet for like almost an hour. And when I really got like the news, like I literally just dropped my phone, like no tears or anything. It was just like silent. It was just like, wow. Like, because what really hurt the most is that he was starting his new life outside of basketball.
Right.
Like he literally won an Oscar.
Dear basketball.
Yeah. He won an Oscar.
Yeah.
So it was like, bro, he wasn't like these retired basketball players that, they didn't know what they wanted to do with their life and everything. Like he knew exactly what he wanted to do. And like, if anything, he was about to make a greater, more direct impact to the community because he's making children's books. He's being a coach now. Like now he's into like, he's accepting of that mentor role.
Right.
And he's coming into that mentor role, which is like crazy as having Kobe Bryant. Having Kobe Bryant as a mentor, not only for basketball terms, but for just wisdom in general and business too. Crazy.
Right.
I remember that he rung the bell too at the stock market. So it was like, bro, he was, and like just his mentality.
Yeah. Did you watch the funeral?
I did. It was definitely a rough watch for sure, but it was just like I wasn't really the biggest Kobe Bryant fan. Like I knew Kobe. I know Kobe was a killer. I had nothing but love and respect for Kobe. And I knew like his mentality is crazy. But my favorite player growing up of all time was Michael Jordan because my dad kind of instilled that into me. Right. Especially buying all Jordans and everything. Yeah. I'm well aware of the culture, but my favorite player growing up and still is Kevin Durant. So
get out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry. Are you just
the Durantula?
Yeah. I love Kevin Durant.
He's a good guy. I'm sure. Tall.
I don't think he cares about his legacy.
Yeah,
I guess in the terms of like Kobe or LeBron. He's just like, I'm just here to hoop.
I'm obsessed with obsessed people.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed with people that are great.
Yes.
Right. And these people are the people I'm just, and obviously Jesus is the greatest. He's the GOAT. It's these people these generationally changing people that I'm just so drawn to.
Because they're vessels at the end of the day. Creativity. The one reason why I wasn't really creative until I was 21 simultaneously with my spiritual journey is because I started getting into the habit of feeling. Creativity is a feeling. If I try to intellectualize creativity, I'm not going to create anything.
It's a nightmare.
At all. It's a nightmare. Like I make it a lot more harder than it needs to be. Creativity is a feeling and you have to be at mercy of creativity because there's times where I'm getting ready to go to bed and everything and I have a certain idea. I'm like, well, all right. I'm not going to bed for another hour or so, I guess. Right. So let me write this down or let me do this, which here in the past couple of days, I haven't been giving leeway to it. But automatically, if I don't give leeway to it, I'm just like, I feel terrible. Right. I don't feel like I'm being the best I can be. Right. And I know these ideas are still in my head. It's just like, I can't force them to show themselves.
I know
they'll come right back. It'll be a boomerang. It's like, if you don't catch it now, then You got to wait for it to come back.
And I think only creators understand this. Only creators can understand.
We're all creators at the end of the day.
I mean, but there's a conscious effort almost of creation, right? Where you listen, where you receive, and where you output.
For sure.
Right? And you could just deny it. You could just attach on to people's creations, and that's awesome. And there's a lot to intake: TV, art, music, right? All of these things. And what's really, really hard is you don't get any credit for it either. You don't.
No,
like
you're not supposed to take credit for that.
No, right.
You're a vessel at the end of the day. Like Mike talks about it a lot. Kendrick talks about it. That's why I love that we picked this dynamic, because it's two people that have said, do not get in the way of the music. Do not get in the way of the music. The music finds you. You don't find the music.
Interesting.
And the music, and Quincy Jones, who produced with Mike, and one of the reasons why Thriller is such a phenomenal album is not because of Mike, but because of Quincy and his team as well, production, and how well they understood music and how much leeway they gave the music to work through them.
Right.
Life has to be worked through you. Not only are you alive, but livelihood is happening through you. It flows through you, and you have to allow that to happen. What level of livelihood are you going to allow yourself to experience? Because while you are co-creating life with the divine and the ultimate reality, you have to give leeway for the ultimate reality to flow through you, through ideas. That's why I say, and I said this time and time again on this podcast, that ideas have people. People don't have ideas.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I've run with that idea so
Yes.
much.
Yes.
And it's almost, that's what I've realized with faith as well. It's that faith is given to you and you don't create faith.
Exactly.
And that's a weird thing for, I keep saying Americans. It's a problem with me too, right? I'm like, how do I conjure this up? How do I conjure up good art? How do I conjure up a good sermon? And this is just so prevalent within sermons too. It is creativity.
Yes.
It's, shout out to your pastors, by the way. Give them a little bit of credit. It's hard work, but at the same time, it's all God working through them. But
we're all channelers.
We're all channelers.
We just have to allow that to happen. If we don't allow it to happen, then
right, it's a miserable experience writing something, and you're trying to intellectualize it in some way.
Oh my God,
it's a nightmare, bro.
It's the worst work I've ever produced.
That's all.
The worst work I've ever produced is when I try so hard.
Right. And then I look at journals when I was like 7 years old, and I wrote a note to God. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. I'm like, what does that mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then now I look at my monkey creation of just gibberish because I'm intellectualizing everything, filtering it through all the systems that have been given to me. And while that's good practice and it takes time to learn the art of refinement and learning how to make a cohesive thought, it takes a lot of your spirit away and a lot of the freedom away.
Facts.
And it's trouble, man. It's a hard balancing thing where it's how much do I do and how much does God do? And how do those two things interact? Balance
is key. Before we get on that, I do have to go to the restroom.
Okay.
We're back. Balance. Like we said earlier, in terms of like not just creativity, but the importance of balance in your livelihood. How do you feel that not only do you approach that in your life, but how do you approach that in terms of talking about it and explaining it through being a pastor as well?
Balance. Well, the best way that I can articulate it is we are spiritual, physical, and mental beings. To disregard any of those is to disregard who God has made you to be. Let's say you have perfect devotional life, okay? Up here. You're spiritual, you're good, you're solid. But if you neglect your physical life, it's detrimental sometimes. Obviously with fasting it's a little different. it's detrimental to your spiritual life.
Yes.
And let's say you have a perfect physical life, but you neglect your mental state, right? We see this all the time working at a gym. There are psychos there that are there for 6 hours. 6 hours, dude. You know what that necessitates? Therapy. Okay?
Yeah, that's 6 hours in the gym is crazy. The most I've ever spent in the gym was 3.
Yeah, I've
and
been
that's
3.
why
Three's
I be locked in sometimes.
Yeah, bro.
But those are mostly on the days where it's like a heavy leg day or full upper body.
The pre-workout hits a little bit. You know?
I don't do pre-workout at all.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't like that much caffeine in my system.
I do. I love it. I prefer it.
Hey,
you know,
whatever works, man. As long as you get your work.
Yeah,
it's because you're old.
No, it's because I'm when it comes to legs, man, I'm just weak mentally, you know. But that's where the mental comes in. Let's say you work out, right? But you're not in the right mentality to work out, or you don't have the capability of hitting legs because your mind is too weak. That's a mind problem, not a body problem, right? And so what balance is balancing out these physical, mental, and spiritual things, right? Ultimately, all centered in God, ultimately all having priority with Christ, and ultimately knowing where your foundation comes from, because your value does not come from what you do physically.
Yes.
Or how you might be struggling mentally. Your identity comes from God and Christ. And so with that foundational principle in mind, you could pursue mental wellness, spiritual wellness, physical wellness. And that's the pursuit. The pursuit of all these things together are what make you okay. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect. I'm not saying that you're going to have a life where everything is fine and dandy because you're healthy mentally, physically, or spiritually.
Yeah.
No, you might just be a little bit better than yesterday, right? And that's good enough. And eventually when God comes and he resurrects your body, then you can have wholeness and completeness. But
1% better every day.
Yeah. Pursue being 1% better every day. And I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker. I love David Goggins. Love that guy. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Stay hard.
Stay hard, baby. But he's an example of pursuit. He's an example of what through imbalance, you can have balance, right? Through going hard like Kobe Bryant did, right? And maybe it's not about balance at all either, right? And this is where I'm going to get a little kind of sideways with the question too.
Yeah, go ahead. By all means.
These great people, do you think they were balanced?
In some way, shape, or form, I think they catered their balance towards creativity rather than the outside world, though.
Kobe?
Yeah, for sure.
You hear he's obsessed.
Yes.
The man is obsessed.
The man is a psychopath.
Right.
Would I say he's balanced? In terms of basketball and being the best player that he could be, I think he was balanced. But the best human being that he could be, I think that's what he realized when...
Tried after.
Yeah. I think that's what you realize in terms of retiring. And that's why it hit so hard when he died, is because now he was getting to a certain state of balance that was about to exceed the balance that he found as a basketball player. Because now he has more opportunities. He has open opportunities to do whatever he wants. And he's still involved in the basketball community. He's just not a player. He's more of a coach and a trainer and a mentor. And I think with that, now you pretty much open up the doors for something a lot greater than just playing a game of basketball. Now you're paving the way forward for other people, not only just in basketball,
right,
but through writing, through business,
right,
through so many different mediums. And it's just
right,
man, incredible.
Have you heard of the burners, the stovetop burners approach to balance?
No.
You heard that?
Break it down.
So on a stovetop, you have usually about 4 little fire gaskets, right?
Yep.
And you only have so much effort. So sometimes you could turn the left one on and it's burning really hot, but that means the other ones can't go on either. And you can only turn on so many. So you only have so much energy, so you can only burn. So this would be family. This would be my career. This would be myself and my individual development. And this would be my podcast, right? And so you can't have all the burners burning at the same time, or else your energy is going to deplete really fast.
Yeah.
So in order to balance yourself out, you have a little bit more to family, and then you have a little bit more to your career. You have a little bit over here, and maybe this is going on the back burner, my hobby or something.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't have them all at the same time, so you pick and choose. So a balanced approach would be like, this is what Kobe was doing. I go from basketball to my family, right? I go really, really hard in basketball. 90% of my effort is available to basketball, 10% to my family. But
balance isn't, and that's a good point. Balance isn't always 50-50, especially when you have a lot of other things that you're juggling.
Right.
Like for me, mine is mine, story stitchers, work, and then family.
Right. Body.
Yeah. So it's like, how can I balance that within that 100% title?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I only see my family maybe 1 or 2 days out of the week.
Mm.
Mostly Sundays, because Sunday is where I go over there to have dinner and then hang out with my brother.
Right.
And then with my other brothers in town, both of them. So I would say like 20% family minus mine is getting like 70. I wouldn't even say 70. It's getting about 60.
Yeah.
And then work. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm finding, if anything, I'm continuing to find that balance.
I think it changes too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for
even,
sure.
Like even with the gym,
Yeah.
you prioritize upper body versus legs versus, I don't know, some people train their neck. You know what I mean? And so,
I gotta be balanced in the body. Like I can't be having chicken legs out here. I can't.
But sometimes there's overdevelopment in one area,
For sure.
So you turn back down that part, and then in order to get balanced, you have to go to legs.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, what if balance is not just this? I need to have all things straight at the same time.
Moderation.
Burning at the same level all the time. What if it's intensity and then consistency over here and then ramping up the intensity over here?
Well, it's easy to get burnt out if you don't have balance at all.
Right. Oh,
It's like if I'm focusing on one area of my life and everything else is just going into shambles, it's just like, that's kind of what I was talking about with Christ consciousness being in the heart. It's when you're centered in the heart, not only are you mastering the material realm, but you're being a perfect vessel for the spiritual realm as well. That's essentially what Christ was, is that I'm able to dominate what I do in the material realm on a level that people were like, how are you doing this? But also at the same time, I'm allowing myself to be a vessel for something greater than anything that I see, and even this body and this mind, to come in and help me guide through my dominance of the material realm. And when I say dominance of the material realm, I don't mean ruling over people or places and things. I mean being able to hold my own and walk thoroughly on this plane of existence without fear of getting scathed or having a scratch.
And so what does balance look like for you? How does that actualize?
As long as I approach life in a loving way, I feel at balance. Because if I'm approaching life in a non-loving way, and 9 times out of 10, if I'm doing something that doesn't bring love into my life, that is how I get off balance. If anything, for me to figure out how to be balanced, it's figuring out what causes me to be imbalanced is equally important.
Right.
So it's like, identify what brings imbalance into my being.
I see.
While also, because it's very important to identify what you're for. And a lot of times to help you identify what you're for is to identify what you're against.
Right. You have to, I think it sounds like you're talking about identity.
In a way, yeah.
Who you are.
Yeah. It's like, what do I like? What am I wanting to put my energy towards? What is worth my time?
Right.
and what isn't worth my time. And there's certain things out there where I have no desire to do it at all, where I'm like, that's not worth my time at all. Like very negative things, manipulating people, hurting people. That's not worth my time. That's not worth my energy. If anything, I expel a lot more energy doing that than I do creating. Because as a creator, as an artist, if anything, not only am I expelling energy, but I'm creating something with the energy that I'm expelling. I'm creating something greater that will give not only me new life and new energy, but others new life and new energy. Because I'm not just doing it for myself, and I'm not making music just for myself. I don't want to be the only one listening to my own music or watching my own film. Like, I want to do something that people will enjoy.
Yeah.
And how can I bring certain satisfaction and happiness and love to other people and inspire people through that work?
So it's not only about yourself, it's about others too.
Yes, for sure. And that comes with a balance too as well, because I can't do it solely just for other people, because then I'm disconnected from my art and what it means to me.
What's interesting is that one of the big ideas in the Bible is that Jesus lived his life for others. That's his whole thing, right? But there were moments when he just went into isolation for prayer because he needed that realignment.
Yeah.
Right? You can't always be giving. You can't always be
receiving.
Yeah, receiving.
You have to have that balance.
Exactly.
Openly receiving, openly giving.
Right.
Because it's like, if I'm not openly receiving, then how can I be openly giving?
And so what do you look to receive when you're by yourself?
When I'm by myself, peace. How can I find peace within myself and then bring peace to others? If anything, it's the foundation. What I look to find within myself is the foundation. Because if I know that if I don't have a foundation within myself, how can I give others the foundation to learn or to grow or to be inspired by my work? Like, if I don't have the tools, then it's like, how can I create without the tools? How can I be the best that I can be without a firm foundation?
Do you have peace?
I feel like I do, for sure. Like, I've gotten to a point where I become unbothered, and the only thing that bothers me is if I get in my own way. It's not if other people get in my way. It's like at work, it's like, not even at work am I bothered, because there are some people that come through work and can be aggravating, but it's just like, I don't have any time. Yeah, you especially. Jesus, man. This guy Erick, bro. I'm just kidding. But it's just like, it's just a constant reminder. It's like, nobody can dictate my peace but myself. Nobody else can help me find peace but myself. You can show me the right tools and the right way to approach peace. It's just up to me to listen. It's just up to me to utilize those tools. So if anything, no matter what you do or what anybody else does, it still falls upon me to bring peace into my life or allow peace into my life.
Because the peace comes from self, like you were saying.
Yes. Because it's like, how can I, like, you have to practice what you preach. So like, how can I preach peace if I haven't even found peace within myself?
Yeah, you have to find peace outside of yourself.
Yeah. How can I preach love if I'm not loving of myself? If I say one moment I'm telling people to love themselves and that you have to love each other as well, but I get home and I just like do acts that are self-harming.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. It's conflicting. I have mercy with myself because whenever that feeling happens, it's just like, it's just a feeling. I don't have to act upon it. I don't have to expand upon it.
That's right.
I just have to realize, okay, why is it here? Why am I feeling this way? Okay, bet. Let me go into meditation. Let me be still And let me recognize that these are just clouds in the sky, and I have to let them just flow.
Right.
Don't put and that's what meditation is. That was one of my questions in terms of like meditation and prayer and how important that is to you, and like what's your approach of it. Because for meditation, for me, I always tell people it's not to analyze my thoughts, or it's not to figure something out. It is just to simply be, completely be, without hanging on to anything. Just be still, and just find the silence within every single thought, between every single thought, between every single sound. Because sound emerges from silence. Silence is always there. You just have to find it. So if anything, it's bringing total alignment of every part of my being into silence. And through that silence is where we encounter the formless, God speaks the loudest in silence. And that's where I go to.
Yeah. I think my pursuit of prayer and meditation is pretty similar. There's this very old philosophy of oratio, meditatio, and tentatio. This is just Christian. And so oratio, let's start with tentatio. Tentatio is when you're out in the world, right? And something bothers you. Something is truly troubling. It's troubling to your spirit. And it's conflicting with all of your values, right? Someone tells you to give them a shake for free. Should I do that or should I not?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Someone tells you to lie for them. Someone tells you to just spot them real quick, or steal for them, or maybe something within yourself too. Should I tell the truth in this situation because it's too hard? Or should I just push it off? So tentatio is when the world comes in on you and you need to reorient yourself because you don't know what to do, right? Tentatio, trouble. Oratio is going to the word, right? Going and studying the word. And this is what your schematic is for how you should live your life. Prayer, meditation. And it goes to meditatio, sitting in on it, letting it wash over you, letting these words sink into you because this is the truth. Now, that takes some silence, right? It takes letting go.
That's what faith is the constant act of letting go.
And you have to trust in something greater than yourself. You might have security in any number of things, money or power or influence or ego and all these things. What happens when those things get taken away?
Because they're finite.
What happens when these things are just removed from you? What happens if you become paralyzed? What happens if I become, if I can't speak anymore? Where do we go? Where do we get our security in the things that we found security in?
You know what that brings up that we talked about earlier?
What's that?
Impermanence.
Impermanence, sure.
The importance of impermanence. And that's kind of the entirety of what Buddhism is that learning that nothing in life is permanent. The only thing that is permanent is a state of being that has lied dormant within all of us. And that is the formless within all things, the creator within its own creation. We're made in his image, and we have to recognize that. And we don't recognize that through talking. We don't recognize that through action. We don't recognize that through obtaining things. It's recognized through stillness and through silence. Because that's when you're able to hear it the loudest. Anything outside of that, you're just listening to its creation.
Right. Yeah. And so what prayer is realigning yourself to something greater than yourself. And understanding that things come and things go. And he's the one who does it. He's the one who takes it away, and he's the one who gives it to you. And so what do? We continue to trust. We continue to have faith. Even though we might not know the path forward, we know that he is good because he says he is. And so, but prayer also, it's very interesting. I've increased in my perception of prayer recently through seminary. There's these people called the Benedictine monks, right? And there's a whole bunch of these monasteries or monastic traditions. And most of these monastic traditions would go to the mountains and do their monk things, pray and go into the community because that's the way they give back. And that's it. That's their whole life. Be with your brothers, go out into the community. Be with your brothers, go out in the community. Praise God, live a sanctified life. But then there's these other guys known as the Benedictine monks. And what they did was they didn't go back into the community. So what does that mean? How did they give back? What they believed was that the greatest thing that they can give back is prayers. Weird.
Mm-hmm.
So when you pray, you're asking God to bless another person, right? And you're asking God to encounter another person and be with them and anything. You can ask God anything, to be honest. But what my view of prayer was, okay, I could just pray for this person and it'll be fine. I can pray for this person and something might happen or it might not. But what these people showed me was that maybe I'm underestimating prayer. Maybe I'm underestimating the power of prayer. Maybe I'm underestimating the ask from God. Because God says, ask and you shall receive. Right? So what does that mean if I pray for someone to be blessed? What does that mean if I pray for someone to be healed or pray for someone to...
They shall receive it.
And am I underestimating it? And is prayer only for myself? What if it's a request? What if it's something that's a miracle? What do I do with that? Do I believe in miracles or do I not? What do I believe that God can do? Do I need to go encounter that person? Probably. I should probably go back into the world. Our life is not just in the monastic life. It's also in the world.
Yeah.
But what happens if prayer is more than just a meditative state? And what if you can ask God for something and he can give it to you? And what if I have been underestimating this thing because I don't think God can work miracles? And what if he does? What if God does something because you ask him to, because he loves you and he cares for you? And he also cares for the community and creation that he made. So what if it's more than just the meditative principle of being at peace?
Yes. And you brought up a good point that in Eastern philosophy, meditation and yoga, because yoga in Sanskrit means unity, is not just to stop your thoughts or to stretch your body or align your body into sacred geometry and geometry that aligns with the universe. They are not ends of themselves. They are tools to see the end. So when I say meditation, it's not the end of itself. Meditation is not something that brings peace, but is another way to see and obtain peace. But it's not the end of peace, because the end is to, even when I leave meditation, I'm still in a meditative state. Mm-hmm. That my entire life becomes a meditation. It is important for me to sit still and to be silent and to isolate myself. But it's also important to take that meditative state and apply that to everything I do, where my entire life becomes a meditative state.
Yeah, there's a teacher that said, your devotional life is not a moment in time where you pop open the Word and write down some affirmations and write some nice thing. Your whole life can be a devotion. Every single moment of your life, you could be walking and thinking about these concepts, because it's more than just a moment in time.
Yes.
It's a life.
Mm-hmm.
And your devotion means you're devoted to something.
Yes.
And so
it's not all about just going into meditation to seek the truth within there. It's what you found through meditation and applying that every second of your life, no matter what you're doing.
Right.
Alan Watts, if you know anything about Alan Watts, he said he's big into Eastern philosophy. He grew up in Great Britain, which is part of, Western civilization and part of the society that we live here in America. A little different, but still part of the Western civilization. He said that Zen spirituality is not thinking about Zen while you're chopping tomatoes. Zen spirituality is simply just chopping tomatoes.
Interesting. And then I know a quote I heard was Christianity is not just being in church.
Yeah.
It's being a Christian. Living a life devoted to an embodied belief. Not just a meditative... Sorry, I don't mean to use meditative in a weird way. But
No, you're good. I know what you mean.
Not just a moment of closing your eyes and being in a room.
Exactly.
It's everything. That's what this means. This is everything, right?
My path is not just through my meditative. It's not through my practices. My life becomes my practice.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of Christians have trouble with. And this goes back to your problem of what do we do with Christians that are not living the embodied life? Well, you're not a Christian. Now that's scary. Now I don't mean to scare off a bunch of Christians there, because your Christianity comes from your faith in Christ, for sure. And let's say you live a sinful, terrible life that is not embodying what you believe. That's okay. Jesus Christ died for that sinful life, but there's a balance here. The balance is, yes, your entire life is justified by Christ and you have full security and you can live a terrible, 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 worst murdering life as you can, and you will still be okay. This is the difference between what we like to call coram Deo and coram mundo. Justification before God and justification before others. And so before God, Jesus Christ covers all your sins. Before others, you are made righteous by your action, right?
Yeah.
But that security of God is the thing that gives you peace. And it's the thing that will ultimately give you that foundation that you were talking about in order that you may be able to express it to others. So what that means is that your relationship with others still matters. Your relationship with how you treat people or talk to people or pronounce your God, whether you embody your belief, matters 100%. Because this is what we do because we're Christians. We live a life full of love and hope and peace and patience and kindness. And these seem like platitudes. They seem like just, a Christian's going to be kind and the Christian's going to be loving. But what does that look like? What does that look like with homosexuality? Right? That's the big thing. It's Christians hate homosexuals. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't hate them. We don't hate transgenders. We don't hate anyone. We're called to love them, and so we do. Now, it's a very hard thing.
You still love the people that hate Christianity.
Right.
I still love the people that hate God.
Right.
Because I know, essentially, if you say you hate God, you're saying that you hate yourself as well.
And you hate others.
Yeah. You hate all things. God is in all things. So do you hate all things?
Right.
Because I guarantee you the things that you like, God's within those things as well.
Right.
So that's why I say, when you say you hate God, that's the biggest cap of all time. Cap.
Because then you hate yourself. Because you're a creature. You're a creature created by God. The interesting thing about, I'm trying to figure out this distinction as well about suicide. The biggest question to a lot of people is, why shouldn't I kill myself? That's a question that's hit my heart very much, because a lot of people in my life have killed themselves.
We talked about that too in nihilism too.
Yeah, that gets really deep, and
Yeah.
that's a lot. It might be too much to tackle. But when you understand that you're a creature of God who eventually can become a son or a daughter of God, there's a difference.
Yeah.
That creatureliness gives you value beyond everything, right? Or else what happened to people in Germany wouldn't matter. Let's say they weren't Christians, right? Let's say they were not all Christians. What gives them the right to live? It's because they're a creature of God, right? And so you're a creature of God, and so you should continue to live. Now, even more than that, let's say you're a Christian, you're also a son or a daughter of God. That means mucho. That means a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
But both of them are so unlimitedly valuable, right? Now, you are welcome to the kingdom of God as a son or a daughter. But your creatureliness and who you are as a creation of God makes you unlimitedly valuable. That's why God came to die for you, because you were valuable, even when you were his enemy. And yeah.
Talk your stuff, man. I love it. I love it, bro. So we got to a lot of the questions, honestly, that I had. I do have two big questions before we get out of here. So one, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from your journey?
Give me a sec.
Do your thing, man.
That faith is given to you. What that means is my job as a pastor is not to try to contrive some faith within you. But my job is to proclaim the word to you.
Yeah.
And to give you the truth. And God will do what he does, and he'll convert you if he wants to. And I guess what that leads to is the passivity of our faith. That God is the one who encounters you. And you don't have to do anything, but he comes to you.
It will come at the right time. I think the only thing that we have to do is allow that energy to come through. Allow ourselves to listen.
Right. And it's going to take a lot more humility than I have.
Oh, yeah,
And
for sure.
It's going to take a lot more of these conversations to get a little bit better at explaining them.
I had to my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, because it's very complicated, and you have to sacrifice your ego.
I was going to say I had to sacrifice a lot for me to at least have an ability to understand this new knowledge, because you have to, in a way, forget everything that you've been taught and make a foundation for something new to come in. And whatever works and whatever still resonates with you from that old life, still works. Not saying that everything needs to be thrown away, but there's a lot of spring cleaning that needs to happen.
Mucho.
Yeah.
A lot
of spring cleaning that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Huge spiritual cleanse. I went from 205 pounds to 155 in a matter of a couple months.
Wow.
Yeah. So in a year, I guess you would say, because coming out of quarantine, I was like 205. That's the most I ever weighed.
Yeah.
A little chunky, you feel me? A little chunky. I was still playing baseball at the time, so I was weightlifting.
You eating?
Yeah, it was muscle, but fat, unnecessary fat on top of it as well.
Sure.
And then I went from 55. It went to 205 to 155, and went back to my skinny days. Mm-hmm. And I remember there were periods of time where I just didn't want to eat at all, and it wasn't out of like scared of how my body looked at all or depressed or anything. It was just like I just didn't have the appetite at all. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of when I was just fasting out of nowhere.
Right.
Like I just had the need to fast out of nowhere, and I didn't even know that I was doing it. Mm-hmm. Until I looked back. I was like, dang, I really didn't. And like I felt healthy too. I was still moving around and working out and stuff like that. It was just like I just didn't feel a need to really eat. And that was during the time. And that was during the time where I was really wanting to learn.
So that part of your spring cleaning.
Yeah. Mm. And even if it was unconscious at the time, I did my spring cleaning. It was like something took hold.
Right.
Of me.
Something took hold of you. Interesting. Yeah. And I think that goes on to this passivity thing.
Yeah.
And this is a very interesting part that is underestimated in Christianity. It's that we believe that transformation comes from ourselves when transformation comes from God, and transformation comes from the Holy Spirit. And so the biggest part of my faith is realizing that it's not my work that I've done. It's God's work that's done within me. And it's not about how much I can focus or meditate or center myself. Now I have a responsibility to do those things.
Yeah.
But much of the transformation that happens within me is because the Word lives within me, because God lives within me, because He is transforming me daily. Not because of anything that I do and not because I'm good enough, but because He gave me the faith to do it. And He transforms me whether I like it or not. And one of the biggest things in my life is that I've always tried to run away from God. For sure. I've always tried to, like, if I want to say this faith was given to me. It was given to me. And I've tried to gifted, better. I've tried to run away from it. I tried to go into just the worst type of relationships, and I've tried to rip it off of me, but it's always stayed.
Would you say you did that because you just didn't understand it? Because it's just hard to grasp, and we're so used to one way of living. Because one thing I found, not only within myself, but other people, is that we get so attached to comfortability to the point where any type of risk taking or any type of taking a leap of faith shows itself, that opportunity shows itself. Right. It's like we're too scared to do that.
Right.
And if anything, walking the spiritual path is a constant leap of faith.
It's the straight and narrow.
Yes.
Right.
Literally it's jumping off the cliff. It's jumping off an endless cliff.
Right.
But while we're falling, we learn so much. Right. And it's just so much excitement, so much going on. To the point where it's like we have no choice but to be still and be forced into isolation.
Right. I think I wanted it because, yes, it was comfortable, and because it's what other people told me that I should do. Why do you need God? He's just going to restrict you, right?
We need boundaries, though.
Right. And
because without boundaries, it's total chaos, and any energy can come in and just sway us however we want. Right.
And then I was looking at, and so I just decided to do the sheepish thing and pursue whatever the other person wanted.
God, you're such a sheep.
Money, kicks, shoes, more clothes, more clothes, more clothes, right? I was just like, I look sick. But I felt empty. I felt like, what am I doing here, bro? Why do I feel so miserable? Why am I suffering? If I have everything that everyone is telling me that I should want. And so I was trying to renounce my faith because it seemed better to not have it. But then I realized, or maybe it realized me, that maybe I should just stop fighting it. And
Life is a realization.
Yeah. And it's a hard path to go down, man. And it's going to take everything.
For sure.
It's going to take all of you. And I admire you for that. Thanks. Because I don't know if you know this, fellas, but this is the happiest guy I've ever seen in my life. He's just in work, floating around like a butterfly, you know? And it's really made me so admire you. Because
thanks, man.
As a Christian, the one with unlimited hope, how can I walk around just being grumpy Erick, you know, or tired Erick? But you've really shown me that the pursuit of truth and the pursuit of something greater than yourself can give you overwhelming joy, and that taught me a lot, man. And I really do hope that your podcast blows up, and I'll be praying for you, and this is something that's cool because you're trying. And you can keep encountering the truth and you keep discovering. And I'm glad I can be on here to share you what I believe is the most true. That Jesus Christ loves you and he cares for you and he came to die for you. And this sounds very much like a sermon. This sounds like I'm trying to convince you. And this sounds like I only came on here to tell you my my religion and stuff like that. But this is who I am.
I appreciate that, bro. Continue to be who you are, because it will move mountains for sure.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you like saying that in the best way that you can and through your perspective, because that's why I have you here.
Yeah.
I know that you didn't come here to convert me, but we wanted to have a conversation about consciousness and God and love and, you know, our spiritual journey at the end of the day. And I know it's not going to be totally in alignment, but there's a lot of similarities and we can learn from our differences. And I appreciate that, bro.
Right. And it seems like you have a hole in you that you're trying to fill, you know, and you're trying your best to fill it. And you've encountered something greater than yourself. And that's something to admire. And that's something for everyone to learn from, including myself. That this pursuit of truth is not something that's so heavy, and it can be lighter, right? And it could be something that's not so suffering, even though it is, you know. And please keep kicking around, and please keep interviewing people, because this is a admirable way to live, and it's awesome, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I think that the biggest thing to constantly remind myself is the quest of holiness is the same and very identical to the quest of wholeness and finding wholeness within yourself. To find the totality of who you are is the holy grail of all things. To know who you are beyond any identification, beyond anything mental, and to know who you are spiritually will help you fill the gaps in everything in life. So the quest of wholeness is simultaneous with the quest of holiness.
Right.
So,
can I ask you a question? One question. This last one.
Go ahead. I got one last question for you anyway.
Oh, so. Okay. Finish the sentence. Okay. People are
divine.
Divine. Why do you say that?
I look at everybody. I say namaste. Do you know what namaste means?
Mm-mm.
I see the God in you.
Okay.
And it's like, it's a total recognition that I see God in all things. That's why I say namaste in my outro all the time. Because I see the God in not only myself, but in you and all my audience. No matter what your actions have shown me and however you portrayed yourself to be, I can see through the mask and see who you really are. And at the end of the day, that's God. At the end of the day, that's divine. And I know it's completely up to you to figure that out. However, no matter what you give me, how negative or positive you are towards me and in between, I know that you are divine. And I see you as such. Because I don't treat anybody in a negative way. I treat people how I would want to be treated. If I want to be treated positively, I have to reciprocate that energy. And if I see myself as divine, again, I have to reciprocate that energy.
Right.
Because it's like, what will Jesus do? What will Buddha do? What will all the prophets of every single religion, Shiva, what will Shiva do? What will Krishna do? And if I walk by faith, then I have to reciprocate that energy to you as well.
It's good.
Yeah, there was one thing that DMX said. You know DMX? I know this is a little random name drop, but he said, trust people to be themselves, but trust that you see them for who they really are.
Say that one more time.
Trust people to be themselves, but trust that you see them for who they really are. So trust a liar to be a liar.
Right.
Trust a thief to be a thief. Trust a lover to love. Trust a prophet to be a prophet.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I love you for who you are.
Yeah.
I just don't have any, and that's walking by faith too. I have to let go of the need of trying to control you or trying to be, or have you be this certain person or have this certain perspective or be in alignment with me, because at the end of the day, you make your own decisions. Even if I see the God in you, I can't control how you see that and how you perceive it and how you reciprocate that energy, or if you even reciprocate that energy in the first place.
Right.
I don't control that. All I can tell you is that I have mercy for you because I see the God in you.
I like that answer. It's the first time I got that one.
That's what I'm here for. People are what to you? That's not my question, but I just want to hear.
Yeah. I say sinner and saints. They're made saints by Jesus Christ, who came and died for them. They have a sinful nature that challenges them and tempts them to fall on the sheepish path, and sometimes we do. I know I do, for sure.
Oh, I do too, as well.
Absolutely.
I'm not perfect.
I know. I come into work and I'm just enraged, you know, or I'm just mad or something, or I'm angry and I'm spiteful and I don't treat people with respect. And that's the sinner within me, right? That's the old person within me. But then the new person within me, the person that God has chosen to love, is the one that chooses to love others because he loved me first.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he did everything for me. And so I believe that with that statement, we have endless potential to be bad, but there's also endless potential to be good.
It's a spectrum. There's no absolute bad. There's no absolute good. It's just when I take this path of spirituality, I ask the question, how good can I be? And how much can I learn from the negative things that I've done and that maybe we'll do in the future, mistakes wise.
Right. And
not consciously being negative, but simple mistakes that I've made.
Right. So you have grace with yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's what this dichotomy does. It allows you to have grace for yourself and allows me to have grace for myself. And it's not from me. It's because God forgave me. It's because he told me that I'm forgiven, that I can actually have grace with myself. That's a big problem, right? People get forgiveness from God but can't forgive themselves.
Yeah.
Who are you to tell? I mean, that's a baffling thing to say because you're almost putting yourself in the place of God, right? If God forgives you, he forgives you and you're forgiven. If you can't forgive yourself, you're putting your place in God who says you're unforgivable, but you're not because you're forgiven. That's a tongue twister right there. But
Yeah, pretty much.
what this sinner saint thing does is that allows you to have grace with yourself and also see that you're not a monster and see that God loves you and see that you're valuable and see that you have purpose and see that you have a reason to live because God can redeem all people. God is with all people. God is for all people. And that's great. That's great news. Because at the end of the day, the biggest question is why shouldn't you quit? And the reason why you shouldn't quit is because God believes in you. And God loves you and God cares for you. And though this circumstance may be bad now, that doesn't mean it will be bad tomorrow. And it might be bad tomorrow, and it might be bad the next day and the next day and the next day, and maybe for the rest of your life. But that does not mean God has ever abandoned you. That's a very hard thing to digest when you're in the middle of suffering. That's a very hard thing to digest when every single day of your life has been tormented by demons and evil people who put you down and make you lack the belief in yourself. But then God comes in and he says, I'm for you. I have a plan for you. And I know this moment might be suffering now, but I have suffered for you. And though you may feel unloved, I love you. Though you may feel unredeemable, I can redeem you. Though you may feel like you may never have peace, I can give you peace in the midst of that suffering. Even if tomorrow you are called to suffer some more, I'm there with you. So have mercy with yourself. Know that God loves you and cares for you and will guide you and be there for you. And that this bookmark says suffering on it, which is weird.
Ashe.
It says, come to me all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And so you can have rest in that, knowing that God secures you. So.
Ashe. For my last question, what do you recommend to people that are wanting to take the spiritual path?
Have you heard of the story of the 99 sheep?
I don't think so. I am not sure.
There once was a shepherd, and this shepherd had 100 sheep. And one of these sheep walked away into a hill somewhere, and he couldn't find them. He couldn't find his sheep. And so he leaves the 99, and he goes on a journey to find the one sheep. So, what does this mean? It means that God comes for you. It means that God will pursue you. And you do not need to do anything. You could even be walking away. You can be running away. You can be in the lion's den, anywhere the sheep could have been. But what I would recommend is that you just ask. And ask and you shall receive. Seek and he will find. And you will find him pursuing you. So, if you want the truth, Houston, and anyone else, ask. And God will come, because he always does. Because the truth is undeniable. Because he is undeniable. And he'll come for you.
Always there.
Pray about it. And look to this word. Because this is where God speaks to. And if this is the religious symbol that makes the most famous person in the world, then maybe in your pursuit of truth, you can listen to the words of the most famous person to ever live. And when you ask, the answers are here too. It's very hard. It's very difficult. It's going to take everything. But through the death of yourself, you will find life in him, Jesus Christ.
Ladies and gentlemen, how do you say your last name again? Sorry.
Quezada.
Quezada.
Or Quezada.
Sorry. I swear I know him, but a little bit. But Erick Quezada, I appreciate you coming in today. Without further ado, let's get into the intro. So Mine is Mine is a community, is a platform to help transcend consciousness worldwide through many different means, through mystical means, mystic psychology, to finding the truth within ourselves and walking the path that reflects to us the best. Whether it be Lutheranism, whether it be Buddhism, whether it be Islam, there is truth out there. And I recommend that you take the step to find the truth. Mine is Mine is nothing but a platform to help bring the truth, help awaken towards the truth. Mine is Mine doesn't do it for you. However, Mine is Mine is a vessel to help, is a support system. I'm figuring out how best can I maybe consult with people or help people along their path outside of doing YouTube videos and, doing podcasts. But as of now, through spoken word, Mine is Mine can reach you. How can we reach you, though? Erick Quezada.
Well, my Instagram handle is Erick Quezada.
Erick?
I more thought the air freshener. Maybe copyright needs to follow me there. But Erick Quezada. But I am also going to be a pastor. Now, this pursuit of truth is very difficult, but I hope to pursue it with all that I can. And you can find me by looking me up at ChristMemorialLutheranChurch.com. I'm going to a church in Boca Raton, Florida, where I will gratefully learn some more. And hopefully the social media presence will come. But at this moment, much like everyone else, I am a student. And I still have some to grow. But yes, you can find me at Instagram at Erick Quezada, or you can find me in any number of platforms that will be created in the near future. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Y'all have a great rest of your day. Erick, thank you for coming in. And we out. Hey, thank you for staying after the YouTube video. Be sure to like, comment. It's important to share your voice and subscribe to my channel. There should be a video on the screen. If not, then there's something wrong. But follow me on social media, Instagram, X, whatever it may be. Also, check out my blog in the description box below. Other than that, my name is Houston. I hope you have a great day. Namaste.